You know what I'd like to see, Congressman, is perhaps the 9/11 Commission reopened again, a new investigation with some of these professors and scientists who have brought some pretty fascinating information forward, which really was never looked at during the original investigation.
And I can agree with that, and that's my position. I think it should be reopened. I think that it didn't solve any problems, yet I don't. I don't claim I know the answers, and I don't say our government did it. And I know some of my supporters would say that. Oh, yeah, I know our United States government actually did this as part of a conspiracy. And I don't personally believe that, and I don't say it. But I still am not satisfied with the investigation. There's a rare government investigation that I am satisfied with, because usually what they do is they're just covering up their ineptness and all other kind of problems. I mean, look at the assassination of Kennedy. I mean, I think 80-some% of the American people don't believe that Oswald did that all by himself. So nobody has trusted those kind of investigations. But our big problem there, unless you can really trust your government. So we get Hillary in or McCain in, and they say, oh, okay, the people want to have another investigation. Are you going to be happy with the next investigation? If you don't have absolute confidence in the person, in the individuals in your government, to just have another investigation, will be to cover up the other investigation,
Well, that's true. And what has happened here, and we can sense it, we can feel it, you feel it. That's part of your campaign, your platform. People have lost trust in government in all areas, in their ability to turn the economy around, in the war in Iraq, in what is true and what isn't. I don't think, honestly, this vice president gives a hoot about middle America. We got problems there, Congressman.
Yeah, and I think you make the perfect point that people have lost confidence in the government because government's not working very well. And one analogy I use is how inept the government was in dealing with Katrina in New Orleans, and all the money we spent and all the trailers we bought and just passed out checks. And, it still hasn't solved the problems down there. Central economic planning is just lousy. But that sort of came about, with the mess we have in Iraq and our economy going down, and then the ineptness on trying to solve these problems. This is why government that is decentralized is so much better than centralized government. They get the money, they get the control, and the special interests take over. And that's where we are today, where the people lose out. They confiscate through taxation, and they confiscate by just stealing the value of our dollar.
Next up, west of the Rockies, you're on with Congressman Ron Paul. Hi there. Hello. Yep, go ahead.
Hi. My question first I want to say to Congressman Ron Paul is that I met you in Colorado Springs recently when you had come out here, you were campaigning, and I want to thank you for taking the time to meet with us and talk to us about your issues and your platforms. And my question is, I wanted to know, how open are you to the possibility of perhaps running as an independent candidate in this election?
I'm not considering it. I don't have that as a plan. I'm going to still keep doing what I'm doing now as long as the support is there in the primaries that are left, and hopefully can have a presence at the convention. But there has been a lot of people who ask and speculate about doing it as an independent or libertarian or a constitutional party member, but that's not part of my plan right now.
Would you, if you don't get the nomination, support John McCain?
No, I've said that I wouldn't be able to because I don't think we agree on anything. But I also have to add, if he changed his position, all of a sudden had a different foreign policy and different monetary policy and got rid of McCain-Feingold and repudiated the No Child Left Behind that he voted for and all these other things. Now, I just don't see how I could support him with the positions that he holds.
If you don't get the nomination, I'd love to have you here on Election Tuesday, that night in November, to do a little analysis for the first hour or so, if you're available.
Well, it's hard to say where I'll be.
Who knows? Who knows? Next up, let's go to our wild card line. You're on the air with Congressman Ron Paul. Hi there.
Hi there.
Yeah, go ahead.
On the way to my community's commemoration of the loss of our 4,000th soldier in Iraq, my 11-year-old daughter asked me if Ron Paul was running. And I honestly didn't know the answer, so I'm glad to know that you're still in there and giving John McCain his money's worth. And as a progressive Democrat, I'm willing to vote for the presidential candidate who's smart enough to recruit Dennis Kucinich for vice president. So I'd like to know what you think about a mixed ticket idea.
Well, I think it's a good idea, and Dennis is a good friend. We talk a whole lot, and he knows I'm still in the race. And he and I probably have voted together on foreign policy issues more than any other two people in the Congress. And sometimes there's only two of us up there, and it'll be Dennis and myself. So our evaluation of foreign policy and on personal liberties are the same. We have disagreement on economic policies. But no, I work very well with him. We have not been specific in talks about, president and vice president and that sort of thing, because he's in the Democratic Party and I in the Republican Party, and he had to campaign hard for his congressional seat. So I haven't given that any serious thought either.
What would you do with the IRS, Congressman?
Get rid of it quickly.
What form of monetary tax raising would you have, if any?
Well, I'm not anxious to replace it at all. I want to cut spending enough where you don't need it. People say, "Oh, that's impossible. How can you do that?" Well, if we didn't have the income tax, we'd have as much revenues coming in as we did 10 years ago. So that's still a lot of money. And we didn't have an income tax up until 1913. They didn't get a significant amount until World War II. So we've lived a long time without the income tax. And
some believe we don't even have the income tax law, that it's not really on the books.
Yeah, and there's a pretty good case for that, but they have more guns than we have, so for us to prove it, it's difficult. And if you really want to test them in court, too often they come with their guns and they put us away in jail. That's our big problem. But the biggest problem isn't the income tax is secondary to the spending. It's the fact that we as a people have accepted the idea that we're the policemen of the world, and we have to be have 700 bases in 130 countries around the world, and we have a welfare system here that we can't afford. So what do? We tax, and we have the income tax, and it still isn't enough. Then we go to borrowing and printing. But the high taxation that we suffer from is a reflection of the fact that the American people have allowed their representatives in Washington to continue to spend. And most of them will say, well, that's right, we want less spending, but don't cut mine. Yeah, everybody has their program. And just think how many more people right now want to expand government control of medical care, and there's no cutting back on education. My only compromise on some of that type of expenditure is I am quite willing to support any program at home if we can get the money not by taxes but by cutting all this war spending. We spend $1 trillion a year maintaining our world empire. Jeez. So there's a lot of money there, and we could cut a lot of money and cut the deficit and still take care of some of these programs here that I don't particularly like. But I'm not going to start there. I'm not going to start on taking medical care away from the elderly. That we don't have to do that.
Congressman Ron Paul, his website, ronpaul.com. Congressman, good luck in your campaign, and it's refreshing, and I hope you can make some change in our policy. Appreciate you being on the program. Congressman Ron Paul. And I'll be back in just a moment for the rest of the program. I would have held him over, but he was only able to stay 1 hour for us. So we'll be back in just a moment as we talk about the science of prediction on Coast to Coast AM.